I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, do you think carbon pricing should be repealed?
Taxes exist for a reason, and so no.
I agree with it, mostly.
People can't afford this right now.
I think it needs to be repealed.
The aim of carbon pricing is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and, of course, to make polluters pay. It's also hoped that it will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions in this country by 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by the year 2030. But some Canadians think this is not the way to go because they feel they're being taxed enough as it is, and calls are still coming forward to repeal carbon pricing and put an end to the tax once and for all. So, what do you think about this? Our question.
Do you think carbon pricing should be repealed?
I don't know enough about it, but it seems to be getting out of hand a little bit, and it sort of adding to the fuel, pardon the pun, because people can't afford this right now. And like I'm hearing rumors where restaurants are charging like 2% carbon tax on their bill. So I'm sort of 50-50 on it because it is destroying the planet, all this stuff, and but we need to, I don't know,
Other ways maybe.
find a way of doing it. Like, it's not the right time, I believe. And I think also, when I think about it, the bigger industry should pay a lot more.
Absolutely. I am a big advocate for taxes, but not taxed up the Badinga. We have way too many taxes, and the carbon tax is an unnecessary tax, and it is dividing the country right now. And so in light of that, plus the extra costs that it's costing, Trudeau says it's costing $900 extra a month or a year, and you're going to be getting the $900 back, or the $1,000, whatever it is. That is not true. We're not taking into consideration taking cabs, buses, everything else other than actual direct fuel that comes to our homes.
No, I do not. Because I think that the percentage of taxes that are actually towards carbon tax and carbon pricing are quite minute to the way that people perceive it as. When gas goes up, there's usually different reasons and stuff like that. And if you look into it, it's not the carbon tax that's making that happen. So
now, if I think the carbon pricing should be repealed, what I really feel the public needs, we need more knowledge, because a lot of general public, for instance, will give answers about it, but we don't really know what we're talking about. We want, if somebody says, do you think something should be expensive? No, we'll say no right away. It's common nature, but with a little bit of knowledge, we can understand if certain things make sense, So the average person, we don't really understand, what our carbon footprint even is.
Because I think it's very hard to measure, one. Two, I don't think the government wants to stop industry, especially manufacturing. And manufacturing requires carbon emission. And so if we want to stimulate manufacturing back into Quebec, because it has disappeared, I think it needs to be repealed.
No.
Why?
Because I think we need to, you see, I may not be understanding the exact purpose of carbon pricing, but I think it's helping us to lower our carbon usage, our carbon footprint, to protect the planet in the long run. So I think we need to keep boundaries and limits on how we use carbon, how we spend it.
So there's a lot of things, I think, being taxed. I think people now, they need more of a break, right? You don't want to hike on more taxing on this economy. So I think take a break now, wait till you reevaluate, you get the economy back, then you can start putting in the other taxes on carbon, on anything else that they want to do.
I think that we should pay for, if we're polluting the earth, there's a price to it, and I think that we should pay for it. And it's worth it, because those funds go to help climate change.
I think so, yeah. I mean, people are still driving their cars around anyways, so I think the higher prices aren't really going to change much, except for just a higher dent in someone's pocket. The whole, thing with pushing green and whatnot is still in effect. So I don't really think it's really much of a big deal if they just remove the carbon tax in general. Yeah.
Taxes exist for a reason, and so no. I'm okay with it.
No, I don't think so.
Now, why is that?
It's an effective climate measure because it puts the onus on businesses to find the most cost-effective way of reducing their carbon footprint. So it's a good way of, putting a cost on that output.
Where is this money actually going to? You ask for the money, it's like, okay, we raise the gas prices for everything and everything goes up. But are we actually using that money for the economy, or is it going somewhere else? That's the big difference, because if it's not going somewhere that actually is fixing the issue, well, then why are we getting taxed more on this? If it is, then it's like, okay, maybe it's justified.
No.
Why not? I think it's a good incentive for people to make choices that reduce their carbon consumption.
I think there are other taxes within gas that we could address. I agree with it mostly. I think the price of gas is ridiculous in this country. Coming from a country that's even more expensive, that seems strange. But I think there are way too many taxes on fuel.
I would like to think that it serves a purpose in helping greenhouse gas emissions. I don't know necessarily that maybe taxing us is doing what we would like it to do as a population.
I do. Again, too, I think that, especially with everything going on in our economy right now, cost of living and everything like that, I feel like, an extra tax on something that, as good as carbon tax can possibly be for it, but I think, every little place we can find some room to be able to, have some extra money for regular Canadians is a good thing. So,
I would say no. I would just like to see it more directly linked to incentives for individuals to reduce carbon consumption. For example, like an electric vehicle reduction, like a rebate based on it directly. I just feel like it's perhaps a bit too disconnected from direct incentives.
The writing could be on the wall for the governing federal Liberals. With a strong Conservative lead in the polls, some pollsters are suggesting that if an election were held now, it could result in them winning a majority. But it's not election time, and anything could happen during a campaign. So when it comes time for you to vote federally once again, will you be sticking to your tried and true plan, or will you be changing things up a bit? Our question.
Will you be voting for a different party in the next election?
I will be.
Why is that?
Sometimes I just think the change is necessary. I haven't decided which one yet, but sometimes regimes need to come and go.
Yes, I would be.
What has influenced that?
I think personally, I wasn't really a Liberal to begin with. Those are just my views, but just looking at what's been going on in whatever it is, the last 8 years or whatnot, it kind of has some sort of downward spiraling effect. I know, COVID and the pandemic kind of had a rough time with everybody, but I think there could have been other changes to be made that could have, benefited a lot more of the majority of the country. You kind of see a lot of stuff, on social media and whatnot, or even just in the news primarily, that just kind of says, this is just not working for the country, what the Liberal government's kind of imposing on everyone.
I believe so. I think the Liberal government has done a lot, and I'm leaning towards Conservative. I'm not hugely into politics to give a certain answer with a super opinion base, but from what I know, generally speaking, I think I'm leaning to more Conservative, but I couldn't say for certain.
I mean, I'll have to think about it again closer to election time, right? It hasn't even been called yet, so but I'm sure the situation's definitely changed in the last few years. There's been, I think, a lot of the major issues that are likely to feature in the election. The climate crisis, but things like the cost of living, the COVID situation even is different than it was a few years ago. So I think there's a lot to consider. I'm not too sure about it yet, and I know the position and the popularity of the parties have definitely changed in those few years. So I wonder, how they'll run on it too, and what kind of pitch they'll make. So it remains to be seen, I think.
Absolutely. I voted for Liberals when he first got in, because I thought we really needed a change. And after pushing on 3 terms here, I'm not happy at all. I'm not happy because he is not taking the entire country into consideration. I mean, our borders are wide open. We don't have enough security. There's so many different programs that he is offering. He's been involved in scandals. I just don't think he's the leader.
I think he's trying, but I think it's over his head right now. We need somebody more practical. I think he's all there for the show right now, and he's not accomplishing much. They just seem, as any politician, you can't, they just dish out money and make the people in that area happy for a while, and then never happens, but that's politics, right, from the municipal, provincial, federal.
Potentially. I guess there is still some time, but I feel more inclined that way than I have in the last 4 years.
I'm not really sure yet.
Tell me why.
Again, about educating myself. I think I need to take the time and really consider the different parties that are out there, the perspectives that are being put out to the public, and again, the backing behind the different opinions and statements that are being made, and whether they'll actually have an impact on us or not.
No, I will not, because it's more about the policies than the person.
I will. Yeah, I voted for Trudeau for the past election, and I just feel like it's been a while now, and it's probably a bit time for a change, for better or for worse. And I think it's just good to shake it up at least a little bit.
Probably. I traditionally voted NDP, but I'm leaning further right because I feel like the economy hasn't been great.
I feel like voting doesn't really I feel like it doesn't matter in the end, right? And, I think you just have to go with whoever takes on, because no one's going to make everyone happy, right? So you just have to adapt to who's currently in control.
Depends on what they have to offer. But I would believe so, because we need a change.
A different party? I don't know. I'm not sure what party I'll be voting for. I'm not from here, but I'm from British Columbia, and usually I vote for the Green Party there, so I haven't voted here yet.
I feel, honestly, our parties are doing the best that we can, so I feel whoever I voted for the last term, I'll vote for this term as well.
I can't say yes or no. It's a definite possibility. I'm certainly going to do a lot more research. Traditionally in our little riding, we've had a candidate for a long time who served our riding very well. But I don't necessarily support the entire party that candidate belongs to.
In 1916, the city of Berlin, Ontario, changed its name to what? Kitchener, Barrie, or Oshawa?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Berlin, Ontario, Kitchener, Barrie, or Oshawa? I have no idea, so I'll have to guess. Kitchener?
Barrie.
I would like to say Barrie.
Yeah, I'm going to say Kitchener because I seem to remember something like that way back when.
I'll say Kitchener.
I go with Barrie.
Kitchener, Ontario.
Kitchener?
It's Kitchener.
Okay.
You're a genius.
Oh, thank you.
In 1916, during the middle of World War I, anti-German sentiments were at an all-time high. It was also tense times for the city of Berlin, Ontario. Because of the German connection, it was decided that a name change was needed. After a close and controversial referendum on September 1st, 1916, the city of Berlin, Ontario changed its name to Kitchener. It was named after British war hero Lord Herbert Horatio Kitchener.
Today's world has many scenarios which could cause the average person to worry about what the future could bring. It ranges from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine to the war in the Middle East, or what to do to finally bring the world lasting peace. We sent our cameras out to ask people what their biggest cause for concern is these days. Our question:
which international issues concern you the most?
The environmental issues, for sure, and the risk of stupidity still provoking a nuclear war, as are the first two in that order.
What's going on in Palestine right now? I feel very strongly for the Israelis. I think they're on the right side, and it's just unfortunate what's going on.
the state of the world politics at the moment and the people that could be coming into power in many countries, particularly one of your neighbours. That's what concerns me the most.
I'm thinking of when people migrate to Toronto, they need to understand that their problems are left behind and just try to seek peace. Although their loved ones back there, they are suffering, they should voice their emotions in a better way than just violence. So that's what I think. But Toronto is a great city and everybody should live together peacefully.
I mean, you know, our funding and contributions right now to war efforts are, you know, honorable, but I feel like we're overcompensating for a lot of things. You know, it's supposed to be about 2% for the GDP to the UN and everything, and I think we're still under that. But I feel like there's a lot of spending that can be, you know, reevaluated and kind of put elsewhere.
China and Trump.
Tell me why.
China, because they're trying to get their foothold on everything in Southeast Asia, while America are more worried about what's happening with Trump and Biden and so on and so forth. I think if Trump gets in, that's the end of democracy as we know it.
From a political perspective, I'd say in Europe, it's the increasing rise of the right-wing parties is one that I have more of an issue with.
Why?
Just because it's quite divisive in its nature and the way they really want to work on nationalism. And when you're in a continent like Europe where everybody is about cooperation, it creates a bit of conflict and tension that way. So, yeah.
Same, the increase of the extreme right in Europe, and because it's increasing the tension between the people, and I'm scared that it's going to lead to some war at some point.
Well, obviously the ongoing wars right now, and to be honest, the U.S. presidential election concerns me a lot.
Probably the Russian war with Ukraine, just because if he takes over Ukraine, then he might want to keep going to Poland and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, certainly the wars in Israel and Ukraine are very concerning, and the election in the United States that's coming up.
The conflict between Israel and the Palestinians right now.
Why is that?
Because too many innocent people are dying. Jimmy Carter said a long, long time ago that we cannot learn to live in peace by killing each other's children. And 15,000 Palestinian children have died since the beginning of this conflict.
I definitely am concerned about democracy all over. You know, you're seeing people that are trying to colonize other countries and stuff like that. So I think that the people having a voice for what happens in their country. There's lots of protests and stuff going on around the world. There's lots of war going on around the world, even in the United States and Canada, where people are being silenced. So a general sense of that.
We have a big climate change that is affecting many countries. For example, Canada, it's suffering from temperatures that they are like affecting people, animals, plants. And I mean, it's also a fault of us.
I would say the global economy. Because in reality, this is what affects the people here. You know, there's a lot of international issues that are going on, but I think the global economy and what concerns Canada and its people is what concerns me.
Right now, which international issue concerns me the most is just stability and finding actual world peace. Because right now, standard for world peace is seeming very hard to attain.
War. Well, Ukraine. No, that's true. Ukraine is a big concern. I work with Ukrainian refugees here in Canada who have left everything behind. Obviously, the war in the Middle East, the situation, it's so brutal, so unhealthy for both sides. Innocent people are dying every day. And I understand the long history of the region, but I think we have to stop the killing before we can look at fixing anything else.
Canada is a big country. We're the second biggest country in the world. And with that comes a wealth of diversity and natural beauty as far as the eye can see. Once again, we send our cameras out to ask people why the place they live or the place they originally come from is so distinctive. Our question.
What makes your part of the country unique?
Quiet.
Yeah.
The beauty of Manitoulin Island is unsurpassed in the whole wide world. And I have traveled the whole wide world. And honestly, there's hardly, it's undiscovered. There's not many tourists there. People are slowly going there, but it's breathtaking. When you go over that hill and you see the La Cloche Mountains and you just drive in and it's just like,
I think that I love Northern Ontario because we have 4 distinct seasons. And I would never want to be without any of those seasons. So that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I live in a bilingual province, which is very heavily moving towards Francicization. I'm feeling a little bit like a minority. And I know in Montreal, maybe not so much, but in the broader province, I am very much a minority. And yet my father, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother were all born in Quebec. So I feel like I also have very strong roots. I feel like I've done a lot. I've never left the province. I work here. I raised my family here. I went to school here. I didn't go to Toronto. I went to Concordia. So I feel like I've paid my dues and I have as much right to be here as anyone else.
Well, I think I like Canada a lot because it's very international and it also have a great heritage of many foreigners that they came into a country and they mix with local people. So I think the uniqueness is in every corner because the people makes the country unique.
Honestly, I think it's a pretty, what do you call it? It's a pretty normal answer, but it's mostly the inclusivity and diversity here in Canada. Like I said, I'm a student here, so just seeing all these different people from all these different towns and they're living together, you know, in peace. And when you see everyone's, you know, trying each other's food, buying each other, going into each other's traditions, right? I think that's the most interesting part here.
I think the art specifically, the different types of art here, and how people are so open here, especially like at least for Canada. And also, I guess it's known for its nightlife. It's very alive at night, the city, and it's beautiful. And there's a lot of people around always.
I like the people here because everyone is sweet and nice to everyone. Yeah, that's it.
I've had the good fortune of being able to travel a lot, and it's not perfect, but Toronto is the most successful multiculturalism that I've seen in any city in a big part of the world. So I'd say that's, you know, we don't have the very best of everything, but it's not perfect, but that multiculturalism has really worked here, and I enjoy seeing it. I enjoy being surrounded by it.
I think Toronto is always unique. We're different. Our city hall, the politicians, it's just a different. I grew up in Quebec, and I just find it so different than Toronto.
The freedom that you have, and people take it for granted most of the time. They should understand that it's great to live here and be able to express yourself, but I hope that everybody understands that it has to be in a peaceful way, not in different ways.
It's kind of old-time values. I kind of compare it back to Glasgow. Kind of Glasgow is more working class, a bit more like Toronto, and Ottawa's a bit more like Edinburgh. It's a bit more old money and a bit more kind of old-time values. I like that. Everyone kind of goes on about it being a bit boring, but I like it. It's good people. You know, I wouldn't have moved here from Scotland if it wasn't.
Well, I like the lake, but yeah, Ottawa. We barely just arrived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what do you like about this part of the country?
Well, this part of the country is where my family is kind of based out of, so it's always good to come around and kind of meet up again with them and hang out. And as we just said, we were hanging out in Lake Country, so that's a cool experience that we don't get around our neck of the woods. So
Well, being someone who isn't originally from the capital and have moved here, I think Ottawa has a bit of a stigma, but there's a lot of things that are really developing around this city as a whole. I think there's a lot of really great public engagements that you can be a part of, you know, thinking about things you can attend both with the government and also, you know, specific parties that are involved in Ottawa, like the National Capital Commission and the different engagements that they do. So I think it's really unique to be in the city and be able to attend those things firsthand instead of watching them on the news.
Well, it's hard because I did move away to British Columbia. I think Ottawa itself is great because it's a big city, but it feels like a little city. And it seems very clean, too.
I think there's a lot of history here, a lot of museums. We just came from the Museum of Natural History. It was really interesting. Lots of things to learn here.
The city itself and the people are fantastic. I think it's an underrated city in Ontario and in Canada in general for people to want to live in. And you know, I've lived here for just over a year now and really enjoy it. Lots of green space, lots of things to do. It's a great spot.
Ottawa. And aside from being the nation's capital, especially as a visitor here, it has a different flavor from where I'm from on the prairies. Include everything from the foliage to the people that you see around, to the landscape, and of course, our government buildings.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.